Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up Michigan. And I am pleased to be joined by my Motown crew, George Nycor. Welcome back, George.
Good to be here, Scott.
And Smoking Jeremy from his vehicle.
Yes, so I do what I got to.
You know what? It doesn't matter. It's a good backdrop. It's okay. You're all lit up, and I know you're lit up in a lot of different ways, anyways. And I guarantee by the end of the show, you're really going to be lit up. And welcome back, Don Rubis.
Anyone care to ask what my screen name is?
No.
AW3FC.
That is Kenneth Walker III, and I don't know what the FC is.
Fan club.
Oh.
No.
Now a 2-1 favorite in Vegas for Rookie of the Year. Now that Breece Hall is out for the year.
No kidding. Wow. Yeah, if you think I was going to make an attempt to guess that, there's no way.
The only thing that gave it away for me was the 3.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, you guys are local. I'm here in southern Florida, so there was no way I was going to even tackle that one. But I'll tell you what.
He was a homer about Kenneth Walker, but I will admit Kenneth Walker is a decent running back.
But he was only here for 1 year in Michigan. That was it. Michigan State.
Well, it worked out.
Oh, so now that he's gone, you want to... We'll get to that later.
Yeah, we will.
What? I said he was decent.
No, not you, Jeremy. We'll get to that later. Scott, continue.
Thank you, Dom. I appreciate it. Okay, let me give everybody an overview of what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to summarize the Lions turnover fest and Dallas 24-6 loss. And we're also going to talk about Michigan State, obviously. And finally, we'll talk about Detroit Red Wings having a pretty good start. And I do want to summarize my weekend between the Miami Hurricanes, as well as covering the Homestead Dixie Vodka 400 race. It was a good race. I enjoyed being down there. And a special thanks to Russell Branham, who to me I've worked with now with Talladega and now Homestead, and I'm working on hopefully getting some things done with the Rolex 24 in Daytona. But those are things that we're still trying to get ironed out, so I'll reveal them at a later date. But that said, okay, we'll get it going here and summarize the Detroit Lions turnover fest loss to Dallas. Before you guys get going, though, I do know when I covered the NFL draft festivities, Dan Campbell was the interim coach for the Miami Dolphins at the time. I believe, if I remember right, he took over for Joe Philbin. I don't remember. I'm almost certain that he did.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the people in
Joe Philbin went 0-5.
Right, and then Dan took over. So a lot of people, I'm not knocking Dan Campbell. I've never met him personally, so I'm not going to go there. But a lot of people in South Florida like Dan Campbell. They really did. But did they feel like his candid behavior overshadowed his coaching ability because he's a media guy, darling, or whatever the case may be. But the reality of the situation to me is, I'm not going to question if he's the right guy for the job. He's got a 6-year contract anyways, and I don't know the infrastructure of that contract. So, but I'll tell you what, Jeremy, give me your take on the Lions turnover fest that lost to Dallas.
The turnover fest, number one, Jamal Williams never should have gave that puppy speech at the end of the first practice on Hard Knocks, because he's barking like a puppy right now. He needs to get back on the porch. He is not a running back one. I don't care what anybody says. In that situation, you cannot try to reach forward for the goal line to let that ball be popped out. It was a great play by Armstead. Don't get me wrong. But the problem is when they rushed to the line to make that play, they didn't give the coach long enough to get the damn challenge flag out to challenge the spot. That is why Dan Campbell was pissed. It had nothing to do with the fumble. It's the fact that he was trying to throw the challenge flag and they already hiked the ball.
Now, I know I heard Dan Campbell say today that anybody that can't hold on to the ball won't be a Lion. Well, they're in a situation, whether it's Goff or whatever.
And it's a contract year for both those guys, Swift and Williams.
Right. So there you go. So with that said, George, take it away from here.
Well, yeah, it was very unfortunate. And the fact that Goff, what is he up to now? You guys might know, 60 turnovers in his career. I heard some ungodly figure today.
61 total, but you have to remember, most of those came while there was nothing for wide receiver because they let them all walk after the Super Bowl year.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
He fumbles a lot too, though.
The point is that these kind of statistics start be glaring, obviously more glaring when you're 1-5 and you see a performance.
You're right,
like
but
yesterday.
you're also talking about a guy that has 11 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He's still almost 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which we said as long as it doesn't get past that, it's not a big issue. It hasn't yet. The problem is the lack of talent depth in that wide receiver room was very self-evident after Amon-Ra St. Brown went down.
Oh, yeah.
Without a concussion?
Yeah.
Yep.
DJ Chark hasn't been able to stay on the field, which was his
Right.
We all knew it was going to happen eventually. We were hoping it was going to be later than sooner.
Yeah.
DJ Chark isn't even surprised.
Yeah. Well, they obviously played sloppy, and obviously Gallows took advantage of it. But the fact of the matter is they've got to hold on to the football, and they've got to try to avoid the interceptions. That's just logical thinking on anybody's part. And, the situation now is the hole they've dug is so big, and it's going to be hard to get out of. But
the only good news is more than likely Chicago loses tonight and Green Bay lost. So we're not that far back out, still in the division.
But Minnesota's the leader of the division right now. So
They
didn't play. They had a bye. So you can say what you want. It's a big hole still. They still could go. It could, like somebody on the radio locally said, they could go 5-1 and they're the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Still can. It's still an option. Is it feasible? Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Is it probable? No. Is it possible? Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens. They got to beat Miami first. Take one step at a time.
Well, and we got to get healthy. That's the number one thing with so many of the. Look at the defense. The defense
for 2 years.
The defense finally got the guys we were missing on that D line back, and look how well that defense played until they got gassed because of a total of 4 turnovers in a span of 15 plays.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, crazy.
Look better.
You know what the worst thing is?
What's that, Tom?
Pretty much what ultimately was the game-changing play. And I had forgot that Jamal Williams had never fumbled in his NFL career. I had this feeling in my gut, and it went from my gut to my head, and I was like, I'm not even going to say it out loud, but I promise all 3 of you, I said to myself, in my head, I said, Jamal Williams is going to fumble.
Oh.
And he did. So I saw 2 things I did not expect to see, a Jamal Williams fumble and a legitimate defense, because that wasn't just even, the defense played less terrible because we got healthy. The defense played very well. And then
statistically, we were almost the only difference was 30 yards in rushing.
Goff is going to throw those picks every few games, and he's going to fumble because he has carny hands. The only player in the entire NFL with smaller hands than him is Kenny Pickett.
That's facts.
That's interesting.
So I guess the bottom line is, before we move on to Michigan and Michigan State, is the Lions have only scored 6 points in the last 2 weeks.
I know.
Yeah, did any of us think the offense was really that good? I didn't.
They are when they're healthy. That's all I can say.
Okay, well, nevertheless, 6 points in 2 weeks doesn't cut it, especially when you were scoring points at a pretty big rate. So I don't know. Yeah, and again, now they get the Miami Dolphins as well. So I don't know. I wish I could be there for that game, but my schedule won't warrant it. So I'll be home watching it.
The biggest thing that took the air out of the balloon on that offense was all week we heard Dan Campbell, every presser, man, DeAndre Swift looks good at practice. He's going to play. He's going to play. He's going to play. Saturday, I see something. He's not playing.
Yeah, that was a disappointment. You nailed that one, Jeremy, because, they were all the expectations were he was going to play, and then he scratched, and they saw something, obviously.
And the biggest boon to the defense.
As much as I liked from Pascal, now that we finally saw him, had we just stayed in our original slot, could have taken Kenneth Walker.
All right, well, here, let me point this out. We'll have an opportunity to do so. Subscribe to the South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel, or visit www.southfloridatribune.com and advertise, call 954-304-4941. The audio portion of the show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. If you have a hard time subscribing from our website, just go to youtube.com, look for South Florida Tribune in your search bar. Subscribe. That's all there is to it. You get all the videos that we have on site as well as the streams as well. Look forward to having you join us for more and more updates. Great crew tonight. So, all right. Well, so that pretty much sums it up for the Lions. They take on the Miami Dolphins. And as much as I'd love to see that, I've seen these two teams play. I can guarantee you one thing. By the time we do this show next Monday night, I'm on both media distribution lists, so I'm gonna hear it from both sides leading up to this. It's gonna be fun to read some of the stuff, even when I'm on the road for a couple of days during the middle of the week.
The only thing I wanted to add, the other boon to the defense, was the fact that Michael Brockers was a
scratch.
Yeah, healthy scratch.
Healthy scratch.
The bump on the D line didn't play.
I'm assuming he would have gotten benched earlier if Pascal had been back.
Exactly. I've been saying it all season.
Yeah, my only concern with Dan Campbell is he's candid. I'm sure he's good with the media. And at some point, the honeymoon's going to wear out after a while. So you better put a few more wins up. 4 wins in a season and a half doesn't quite cut it, or not quite that.
I would rather that he wins less so that they have no choice to fire him at the end of the season, because I think he's going to eke out 5 wins. And then in Lions fashion, we don't fire him. And then instead we fire him 4 games into next year, and then it's another lost season with an interim coach.
Yeah. Well,
if you're even thinking about fire him, just fire him.
Well, supposedly, according to one media report, Sheila's already talked to him and already told him he's coming back next year. We can't confirm or deny that, but if that's the case, that's crappy, because if he bails out, if this team bails the rest of the year, I agree with you.
That's why you don't hire a head coach before you hire the GM.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
But let's say you hire Holmes first.
It's been done 25 times in the last 35 years.
Let's say you hire Holmes first, who does he hire?
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't know who he would have gone after.
We'll TBD that. I do want to touch about Michigan State.
Sure.
And the big game obviously is this weekend, 7:30 Eastern time. Michigan State takes a 3-4 record at Michigan, 7-0. If ever a year for me to hope that they were reversed last year, Georgia, we tried to get credentials. I wish it was the other way around. I think we would have managed all right with the Wolverines. They're always helpful to us. But last year I was in East Lansing. Sparty got the best of it, 37-33. We couldn't get credentials. But you know what I did, though, making light of the situation? I took my wife and I went to the Field of Dreams on October 31st, 2021, and got that off my bucket list. Do look forward to going back there again. But the Michigan offense to date they've got 484.3 yards per game. Michigan State 363. Defense, MSU not doing very good. 436.4. U of M 274.7. A lot of numbers to digest there. Wolverines again are 7-0. I think for the second time. George, is that in their history? I believe
6-0. Week 7 they didn't play.
No, Michigan 7-0.
Right.
Michigan
because they didn't play this past week.
No, but they played earlier, so no, I believe they're 7-0.
Well, this is the second. This is not the first time they've been back to back entering the Michigan State game. I think that's what the stat was. Undefeated 2 years in a row. That hasn't happened for a long way back.
Right.
I don't remember the date though. Do you?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's not relevant for what we're talking about anyway.
It's probably like with leather helmets, before the forward pass.
Right. So let's size it up. All right, Dom, I'll lead off with you. Give me a prediction, your thoughts about Michigan State and U of M this weekend.
I was just talking to my buddy about this earlier. What's the spread?
I don't know. I didn't look that part up.
It's like it's in the
20s.
No, it's in the 20s.
I thought it was like 21 the last I heard.
Oh,
I believe so. I think it's higher than that. There's a huge disparity, and it's two sides of a coin for me, because for one, like I'm not a big college football guy, but Jeremy knows I'm a state guy and an anti-Michigan guy, and so obviously me and Jeremy talked about this, and I told him, and he knows. Anyone that thought that Sparty wasn't taking a big step back this year doesn't know much about college football. They're not good. I'm not surprised that they're not good. And on the other side of the spectrum, this is the closest I've been this millennium to actually believing in Michigan. Like, I really think they might be a legitimate contender. And I don't say that often because I'm a huge Michigan doubter, because they are the college football version of the Dallas Cowboys. Every year's our year, still talking about titles from a previous millennium, but they look that good. And I'm not sold on Ohio State. And literally the entirety, I mean, Tennessee just beat Alabama, for Christ's sake. Like, everything is topsy-turvy. There's, 5 undefeated teams left. One of them's Ole Miss. One of them's TCU. Michigan has to fail horribly not to get into the playoffs. However, looking past this matchup, they better hope that the game doesn't mean as much. Well, I think Ohio State and Michigan maybe both get into the playoffs, but if Ohio State needs that win to get in, then Michigan loses, and they better hope it's their only loss, because Michigan can't beat Ohio State when it matters. Till last year.
And of course, this year the game is being played in Columbus too. So, but that's
if there's some sort of, like, in a perfect world, just so all my Michigan Homer fans would shut up, if Jim Harbaugh could win that national title and then just moonwalk right to Allen Park, that's the dream scenario for me.
Yeah. All right, Jeremy, that's a tough act to follow, pal, but do it anyway.
Tell me you wouldn't want Jim Harbaugh right now instead of Dan Campbell?
Well,
I didn't want Jim Harbaugh to stay at Michigan. I didn't want him at Detroit. I was hoping and praying the Minnesota Vikings would have hired him.
So you know he's going to fail this year.
I said he was going to fail because he lost the best part of his coaching staff last year, his defensive coordinator.
True. Go ahead. It's your time.
Coordinator Josh Gaddis. And by the way, before I go on, Josh Gaddis is actually a candidate for the job at Charlotte. Just so you know, I just read up on
I'm talking about his defensive coordinator that went back to the Ravens. That was the best part of that team last year. The offense was good, but it wasn't fantastic.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I'm just making a mention of both. This is news. Okay, Jeremy. We do break it once in a while.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, Josh Gaddis is actually a candidate for the Charlotte job. And McDougal, yeah, but would you be surprised, for crying out loud? It went from one Harbaugh to another and then back to another Harbaugh. So what do you expect? You know,
the defense at Michigan is better than it usually is, and all of college football is worse than it usually is. And Blake Corum is on that. He's that upper echelon of Michigan running backs. Won't amount to a thing in the pros, but he's very good in the Big Ten.
Okay, all right, Jeremy.
I'm scared of this game. It's a trap game. Michigan State got a couple of players back on defense. They've been lacking on defense due to the fact they've had starters out. And you can say what you want, and you can have that funny look, Dom. What happens every year?
I'm blaming you.
What happens every year?
If State wins, I'm blaming you.
It's a trap game. It is. I can't go total homer and say, yeah, we're just going to blow it out of the water. I'm not that guy. I'm a realist. Okay. Every year I've thought we were going to blow them out of the water. We got our butts handed to us.
Well, if the spread is 21 and you don't cover, 17 is not a blowout.
Right. But you know what I'm saying.
This is literally the only time ever that I don't want State to win. Ever.
Well, it wouldn't hurt Jim Harbaugh if he does beat the Spartans.
No, it would actually help him a lot. And then he's not leaving Michigan.
Exactly.
Plus, with that contract, I think they put a clause in there about him leaving that he has to pay back a bunch of money.
Yeah, they did. I'm glad you brought that up.
He's never going to leave.
Well, he won't now after he got humbled and get the Vikings job. He's just lucky to be actually a head coach of Michigan after the way that played out. That could have bit him badly, but he did manage to recover from that. He really did, and I think he appreciates the mess that he's in. But you want to, and I thought Josh Gaddis was the guy that was going to get the job. Had Harbaugh left. All right, so
State's going to win.
All right, so what I want to hear is Dom. Okay, give me a prediction. Michigan State.
Score?
Yeah, score.
Michigan 35. What's 35 minus 17? 18, right?
Yep.
Michigan 35, Michigan State 18. I want to change it after what Jeremy said, but I'm sticking with my prediction.
All right, Jeremy.
I think the same amount of points scored by Michigan, 35 points, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than everybody thinks. I think it's going to be like a 24, 25-point game for Sparty.
All right, George, give me your take on this game.
Well, it's always a trap game. I mean, if one team is better than the other, in this case, it's glaring. Obviously, 7-0 Michigan. They have the talent. They have the horses to win. Right. And the thing is they got to watch those turnovers. They got to watch those stupid freak plays, block punts, fakes by, I mean, D'Antonio was famous for that, when he did a number of things, gimmick plays, I call them, and not only this game, but against Notre Dame and other teams as well. But Michigan State is notorious for that. But Michigan is notorious for making dumb plays and stupid turnovers and things like that at this game. We'll always remember. So the bottom line is that, yeah, Michigan should win big, but they better watch those crazy things like that and not throw a bunch of turnovers, cough the ball up and miss plays and penalties. Michigan for being in the top four, a lot of penalties. Even last time they played, 2 weeks ago, I mean, they had 9 penalties. So they got to really clean up that stuff. And I know Harbaugh's not happy about that. But all that being said, I look for Michigan to win 42-20. 42-20.
All right, I can go with that. All right, I'll give you a quick take on this. Michigan has to continue doing what they're doing, run the football. And with that running attack that they have, to me, if they can go ahead and run the football effectively, keep the ball away from the Spartans, and Jim Harbaugh definitely needs this win against the Spartans when he got Ohio State last year. It would certainly it'll get people off his back a little bit. I really do. And Will Vogel says he's got Michigan 42-21. Good to see it, Will. So, yeah, I'll give Michigan 38-19 on this. I really do. But it's all going to come down to the ground attack. So, all right,
who's first in the West?
1-2 punch for Michigan at running back. You're right, Scott. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said, who's first in the West in the Big Ten?
I don't know. Didn't even look.
Whiskey?
Probably, maybe. Iowa's got a couple losses already, don't they?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's Iowa or Wisconsin, right? Oh, wait. Is Illinois in the West? No.
Illinois.
Yeah.
Is it Illinois? That's what it is. It won't matter, though. Michigan will beat State and Ohio State, then lose to Illinois in the conference title game, but they'll still get in.
Well, Will Vogel just said his uncle played hockey at U of M. That's interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, Illinois is a trap game too, guys, because they play them before they play the Buckeyes.
Right. Brett Bielema's done a good job over there. He really has. Former Wisconsin guy. Got humbled in the Southeastern Conference, landed back in the Big Ten. And if Brett Bielema does a really good job, you never know. He might end up getting a statue over University of Illinois if he can make them good out in that loop, because they're not known for their football prowess. So, bad predictions. All right, the final topic of the night is the Detroit Red Wings. 3-0-2, fourth place Atlantic Division, tough 4-3 loss to Chicago Blackhawks. Last Monday, lost to the LA Kings 5-4, both OT losses. So I guess the question I'm going to have, George, is give me your early impressions of the new head coach.
Well, Lalonde has been very good. I mean, he's doing a nice job. The team is playing very, very well. And what I like about them, they're playing disciplined hockey. That means they're not just dumping and chasing and all that stuff, and they're staying on their man. They're staying on their game plan. He has a plan for them. Don't lose sight of it, and he keeps reminding them, along with the assistant coaches, how important that is. And they had 3 power play goals, wasn't it, last night? believe it was 3 their last game, and it was a great win that they had at home. They've gotten off to a very good start, and then they got a point in every game. I mean, there's really not too much to argue there. There's a couple of those games were high scoring. I mean, they gave up too many goals. And but I tell you what, so far I'm impressed with the guys Yzerman got a hold of, because these guys are really playing well. I like it. I like the team so far, and I think the city does too.
Well, that fourth line, aren't they the tallest line? I don't know if it's NHL history or Red Wings history.
That forward. Yeah, he's like the forward of Zdeno Chara's.
6'8".
Yeah, 6'8". So, Don, give me your perspective about what the Wings are looking.
Well, I was trying to look up real quick the records of the teams that they beat. Montreal's 3-3. The Devils are 3-2. The Kings are 3-4. So, and I know Anaheim's bad. Chicago's not that good either. So they're not. I mean, too hard to say this early in the season who's elite, who's not. But just the fact that they started out the season on a hot note, like, this is definitely, it's a team on the rise. They've been bad. It took quite a while to even attempt to start undoing all the wrong that Ken Holland did those last few years when they mortgaged the future from then until now, trying to extend that playoff streak, which is worthless. Because and I say the same thing about the Lions. Like, what's the point of making the playoffs if you're just going to lose in the first round? But I've seen this before. Two seasons ago, I want to say. My little brother is a big hockey fan, and he got me into watching hockey. And the first 7-8 games of the season, they looked damn good. And then for whatever reason, like, we didn't watch the next game and they lost. And then all of a sudden they just went on a god-awful, lengthy losing streak. And the goaltending
wasn't that the end of Pavel Datsyuk's era when he started getting injured a lot? And then there was a couple other key injuries?
May have been, but the goaltending was terrible. And, they'd get an early lead, and I'm like, oh, then I'd think about turning it on, and then I'd look away for a minute. They'd be up 1-0 in the first period, and then I look back, and they're down 4-1. So, I believe in Steve Yzerman. It was the right hire. I think he waited. Me personally, if I was Steve Yzerman, I would have fired Jeff Blashill before the ink was dry on my contract. That's just me. But, yeah, it's definitely a team on the rise. Will they make the playoffs? Hard to say. They could, but again, it's another one of those scenarios where if they squeak in, if they squeak into the playoffs, like as that last seed, obviously they're going to get killed. Now, if this team has really, I can't even say dramatically improved, but improved enough to get to like a 6 seed. I think they could surprise someone in the first round. And for the fact that they've been below average to bad for how many years now, like the way to do it that would convince me is get that 6 seed and surprise someone in the first round. And after that, like, you lose in the second round, that's fine. Just like I'd love to see the Pistons get in and surprise someone in the first round. And then after that, I don't care. I just want to see something more than a small amount of improvement. But it's got me wanting to watch Red Wings games again, and that's saying a lot.
All right,
I like Mo Sider a lot.
Yeah,
Jeremy, give me your take on this. Then we'll turn it over to George.
Thank God Blashill's gone. This guy evidently is doing well. He has a game plan. They're following it to a T. Like you said, they're not doing the dump and chase. They're staying on their guys. Defensively, they're staying on their guys. It's nice to actually see plays that you've actually seen drawn up and they're actually ran. Hockey 101, it's like when I went to watch my nephew's team, and granted, we're talking about kids, but they had certain plays that they ran, and when they ran those plays right, and they weren't doing dump and chase, and they weren't doing this, guess what? That team went all the way to the state championships that year. So I'm not saying the Red Wings are going to do it. but it's nice to see fundamental hockey come back.
Okay, George.
Well, and it's also nice to see the fans come back, because the fans are excited, and you can tell the momentum and the joy of the fans at Little Caesars Arena this year. And that save that Captain Dylan Larkin made on that breakaway, which would have just killed our chances in that one game, and he made that diving save and slashing the puck away from the guy who was trying to score an empty net goal, was phenomenal. So I mean, the kids and the veterans are playing with determination. And that's what I like. They're excited for themselves. They're excited for the amount of talent on the team this year. And I think it goes a long way, and that it perpetrates, into the fandom too. They restored that red carpet welcome opening night. They're going to have a great ceremony November 3rd and November 5th. They're bringing back the 25-year back-to-back Cup champions in those two games, the 3rd and the 5th. I still don't know if Ken Holland's going to come back, but if he does, I hope the fans don't boo him or anything like that. I mean, what he did in crafting those two teams, what he did and Jimmy Devellano did to build those two teams was phenomenal. But that being said, yeah, it's fun. Fun is back at the LCA.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about this is, number one, you've got 4 major teams there, and Steve Yzerman is by far and away the best general manager of the group. I'm thinking about what he did when he built Team Canada, and then what he's done to build the Lightning. He knows what he's doing. And, I love the comment that you guys made earlier that you couldn't fire Jeff Blashill when the ink was dry. Yeah, you'll always like to bring in your own guys, but you know what? This is a good young team. And the National Hockey League is better because of it if the Red Wings are relevant. When you talk about an original 6 team with 11 championships, they won't have a problem getting back on national TV. And the thing is, when you compare the Wings to all the other Detroit teams, the Red Wings can attract free agents. They can. The Tigers struggle a little bit. The Pistons, nobody goes there. The Lions, well, I don't really know what I value free agency in the NFL, because if Brandon Cooks gets traded, he'll tie Eric Dickerson for the most amount of times being traded at 4. So you can just tell you what trades mean in the National Football League. So the Red Wings are definitely a free agent destination, and hockey town and all. So when you put it all in perspective, I love what Yzerman's doing. Lalone, when I hear him make a comment, I'm not worried about the 3 goals. I'm more concerned about the 0 goals we gave up. And that doesn't summarize what this guy is all about. And I mentioned last week, I know, Dom, you didn't hear this part, but I will mention it while you're on here. There's Bob Buffner, the guy that used to be with the Windsor Spitfire, is a guy that I know that Derek Lalone definitely trusts a lot, and I'm sure their coaching staff is pretty adequate as well. So of what there is in Detroit, I love what the Red Wings are doing. I mean, the Tigers are a work in progress. They're bringing a new general manager. We'll find out how that plays out. The Lions, we already talked about it. There's a lot of work to be done there. The Pistons are a work in progress, but I think the Red Wings are the closest of all 4 to being relevant. And yeah, Dom, you made another good point that, it's one thing to get to the playoffs of the 8th seed, but even if you get there, considering the depths of how low they were recently, that's progress. But if they get to the 6th seed, then anything can happen for sure. So make some great points. Let me go over my weekend real quick, and then we'll give everybody a chance to say one last thing if there's a parting shot. We're making good time tonight anyways. My weekend, on Saturday, I saw the Duke Blue Devils beat the Miami Hurricanes 45-21. In that game, Tyler Van Dyke suffered a shoulder injury. Haven't gotten any news on that. Could have sworn, though, with Duke beating Miami, I didn't know if I was watching Duke basketball or not, but nevertheless, because we know that the Duke Blue Devils are not really known for their football prowess. But that said, I tell you, I had a really wonderful time 2 days in Homestead. I went there on Friday and Sunday. Kyle Larson won the race, leading 199 of 267 laps, 3rd win of the season. He was last year's Cup champ, and he was eliminated earlier in this year's playoffs. So, you guys, everybody knows that NASCAR is my passion. George and I had a lot of good times covering races at MIS. Of course, I enjoyed the Belle Isle stuff and the Grand Prix down there, but NASCAR's always been my passion. It really is. And I just want to give a special shout out to Russell Branham. Yeah, he's one of the nicest down-to-earth guys I've ever met, and I'm bringing him on 1 or 2 shows here. Russell's great. I'll give you the most interesting pre-media access. he's asking me to come to the front of the room here, the media center. I need to ask some questions here. So there you go. Raise your hand, Dom.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
And no offense intended to be made, but you say covering NASCAR is your passion. I can't even say you strike me as I know you. You're a smart guy. What? NASCAR seems a little lowbrow for you.
No, you know what? It's a good point, though. I like the way you brought up. I love the 4 major sports, but I love the chess game. I don't know what your favorite board game is, okay? And I got to tell you another thing. I recently drove. Russell allowed me to do one of those NASCAR racing experiences.
No, I saw that. We talked about that. That looks awesome.
Yeah, we saw you do that.
So what I can say about
left
NASCAR,
turns it's stock car, and the stock means stock. What? I don't know. What do you love about it so much?
Well, that's a fair question. I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you very much, Don. Appreciate you, buddy. I love the chess match that you have with the drivers. I don't know what your favorite board games growing up, but mine was chess. Any sport that has elements of chess, whether it's, I got into a spiritual debate with somebody on another network who tried to downplay what I said. And Jeremy knows that I don't tolerate a lot of things unless somebody reads half I'm saying. I won't get into specifics about it. But anything that involves chess, I said the 2 major sports to me that involve chess are baseball and football, because there's a lot more study time involved there. I don't view the basketball as a chess game. Yeah, I understand reading your sets, but we all know that basketball has diminished into a jump shooting thing. I don't know anything about chess, about hockey either, when these guys are getting banged all over the place.
The association, and it makes me sad because I love basketball. The only difference between the NBA and college basketball is the length of the 3-point line and the percentage of shots made behind said line. That's it. Right.
But to answer your question, Dom, and a lot of people, look at auto racing as, is that a little bit lower than what you're capable of doing? That's a fair question. But to answer that, Dom, I love the chess match and the interaction that goes on amongst the drivers. I love the spotter, and I've always loved it anyways. I just loved it. And another thing I like about NASCAR is the drivers are some of the most down-to-earth guys to talk to. They appreciate the publicity that they get. The most blue-collar athletes I've ever seen. These guys are the most down-to-earth guys.
Okay, that part I get, because I don't see the chess match with the left turns. Like F1, that's real racing. But all those guys are rich kids. Every single one of them.
But what happens though, Tom, is when you have 3 wide, then what are you going to do? When is the right time to find your drafting partner about who's going to make a move? And the thing that few people understand is this. You're not allowed to look in your rear view mirror about who's behind you. You have to, and I can say this now because I did this thing here, as you guys know. You're listening to the spotter telling you what to do, and you have to rely on your spotter. I never appreciated that until Russell put me in the vehicle and to understand, wow, this is a
it's way different when you get in that car, I'm sure.
Well, I know.
That had to be awesome.
Oh, what?
There's another key point. You also can't look to your side that much when you're going that fast. As you know, because you hit 147.54?
Yeah, boy, look at this guy. He remembers my speed.
Once you pass 130 miles per hour, if you look to the side, it's nothing but a blur.
I respect their endurance, because a NASCAR race lasts for freaking ever. The F1 races are over in like 2 hours.
Now, okay, you specifically bring that up because I said this too. Those guys are in a fire suit that's insulated against fire. What does that do? It doesn't breathe, because that would allow fire to get in, right? So it's going to trap your heat in. So therefore, those guys have to have some of the best stamina of anybody in all of professional sports.
Very true.
The only ones that would have more is like a marathon runner when they're doing the big races.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry. I've covered the 12 hours of Sebring in my next project, and I'm working on my contact list is to cover the Rolex 24 and then on the Daytona 500. So don't worry, I won't be keeping quiet about this.
But I'm just saying that as far as that's concerned, they have to be somewhat physically fit to be able to pull that.
That's true.
You don't see a lot of fat NASCAR drivers, do you?
No.
But you do see fat football players.
That's true. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You know,
Very
Jim,
good point.
You don't see too many fat golfers either, and I don't consider that a sport. And I love golf.
Well, that's different. Golf is different, and that's there's a little bit more chess. You're up against
yourself.
The course.
It's
a skill game, and it's mental.
That's it. The thing that can't get lost in this whole thing, and now I can say it because I've done it, and I love. And I'll tell you what, I've done ride-alongs which are different, and I don't mind doing them. I think they're pretty cool. But there's nothing like getting in the cockpit and then strapping the end and all that. And then you can't look anywhere else. It's now it's you, and if somebody passes you, you're thinking, what am I going to do next to get by this guy? Now, I guess you could say, and I really don't want to admit it too much, I don't know what police officers are listening, but, the interstates are my favorite track, especially when I have to drive them a lot, about what moves I make when I go in and out of lanes.
Yeah.
And go any further than that, but the reality is, you know what, though, Dom, to me, the chess match and the drivers and the sport is hungry to promote itself. And when you run across a communications guy, that believes in you, gives you whatever access you need, that only fuels me even more.
That's part of the reason that you do it, because you get the access. I get that. My first place of residence in Florida was Homestead.
Oh, was it really? No kidding. Yeah,
for a week at a hotel.
Before, but it's changed a little bit, though, since the pandemic, And yesterday was cool. I mean, I had a chance to talk to Udonis Haslem, the national anthem singer, and a retired drag racer. It was pretty neat. And Russell asked me because he knows he's, we work together now a couple. He knows I'm going to come up with some pretty strong questions. And I did something with him out with Bruce Pearl a few weeks ago, out in Talladega. But to answer your question, I love sports where there's a chess component to them. Anytime you can outthink somebody, whether you're on the racetrack or whether you're playing ball or whether you're playing football, it's a thinking man's sport. And NASCAR, what few people don't understand, it's more of a thinking man's sport. Even though you're doing left turns, I get it, Dom. Okay, yes, you're only going left turns, but you have to know what's around you and what's behind you, and you have to trust the people like your spotter. And I never understood that until I had the opportunity to do it, and I have a much different appreciation of it. So
I get it. It's a game of inches.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing that I thought is very important, too, in auto racing, especially NASCAR, is the association a lot of people, especially us here in Michigan, have with the manufacturers. Okay, you're rooting for guys that drive a Chevy. You're rooting for guys that drive a Ford. In the old days, they were driving Camaros. And, Mustangs are in some of the circuits. So, I mean, if you're a real car guy, it's easy to love NASCAR, too, because you see that little challenge between Toyota and, Roger Penske is a big guy with Chevrolet or whoever, the owners associated with the certain car manufacturer as well. And so a lot of people that are really into cars, I think, enjoy it also, like my brother Marty, is because, they can associate and want to root for their particular manufacturer.
That's a good point. In fact, George, after the mini availability, I'm glad you brought that up. Kyle Larson, Hendricks is actually one of the, obviously one of the big players.
Oh, gosh, yeah, Hendricks. Oh,
now they have a chance at the drive.
I don't know if I said this before because I know we were talking about NASCAR on a previous show. I don't watch NASCAR ever. I just happened to be watching the race when Dale Earnhardt died.
Yeah.
That's a sad one.
But I guess to answer your question, Dom, I just love the chess component now that I've actually experienced it on my own, and the drivers are so down to earth. I just see it's pretty cool stuff. So, but I like the way he says it, though, George. Dom's pretty good with his words. Don't you think that's a little bit of beneath you, knowing that you're a sports guy? Because what? It's a unique perspective, Dom, that most people would think that that's the case. And I got to tell you an interesting story, though, Dom. When I was out at the Marlins, covering the Marlins, Jessica Blaylock, one of the brightest young reporters down here. Jesse and I have been good friends for a while. And Craig Minervini, is another one. And they didn't even know how much I love auto racing until I go down there. So I never knew that. Well, I don't really get into anything unless you guys are my close friends, and I'll tell you a little bit more. But those two, Jesse and Craig, are two of my best friends in the area. And I told them how I had that need for speed and all that. And, hey, we get along great. We're friends. And, it was kind of surprising, but it's a passion, Tom, is what it is. And, I can tell you right now, when you're driving fast and what do you think? You have adrenaline rushes, right? Tom, you do believe in the old-fashioned adrenaline rush, right?
100%.
Yeah, well, there you go. You just answered your own question. But, is it beneath you? Well, I don't know. I'm going to ask you a question, Tom.
No, not beneath you. Just a little lowbrow. Like, you're a smart dude, and you've covered real sports for half your life. But I get it. I mean, you like what you like. I like golf. That's not a sport either.
Yeah, so my question to you, Dom, okay, are you a big adrenaline rush kind of guy?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I just, last weekend, I went to Kings Island amusement park in Cincinnati. Oh, yeah. I live for that stuff. I don't drive super fast in my car ever, other than, when it's rush hour and it's super trafficy and I shouldn't. Like, the times that I shouldn't go 100 in the Audi is when I want to. Yeah, super big on adrenaline rush.
Yeah, I've been to Kings Island.
Never been skydiving. I don't know.
Well, I've done a few of those.
I'll tell you what, I've from past experience, there is no feeling better than when your chute opens.
Yeah. Let's hope it opens.
If your chute opens and everything is lined up right, guess what? That's, much as I hate to say it, that's the only feeling that I can say in my lifetime that's been better than sex.
Well, let me tell you this. At my niece's Brooke's wedding, I did some skydiving is what I did a couple of years ago. Us people over 50 can do that once in a while if you're properly in shape. And many years ago, I did parasailing. The first time I landed in the middle of the water because I couldn't go ahead and listen to these Mexicans tell me what to do. And the second time I got it right when I finally figured out what I was supposed to do. And my sister-in-law, Jeanette, said, I'll never go parasailing after watching you. Yeah, I guess after my display.
I'm sure I would have went skydiving, but you have to go like 2 or 3 times tandem.
Yeah, parasailing and zip lining are what I've done. So with that said, I'm glad that we were able to get off the major sports and talk about something different. That's what we're going to start doing. Is I'm going to, beginning as of tonight, which we started, we're going to talk about 3 major things. I'm going to come up with some off the wall stuff to spice up the broadcast. How's that sound? You guys are onto some good stuff, and I'm always a student of these things to make them better, more candid, and we were able to strike a bone. Thanks, Dom, for your input on my NASCAR. I got plenty more before this bad boy's all said and done.
Oh, I mean, I like I said, no intent to insult. I just knew that your answer would totally satisfy me.
You're the best. That's all I can say.
One of the best.
You guys are.
You're the best.
Huh?
You're the best. I'm just one of the best.
That's okay. Hey, I love confidence and I like my crew. And that's all I've got to say. And yeah, Will Vogel looking for having you on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk tomorrow night. With that said, okay, Jeremy, obviously coming up after our show tonight, we got Fire Up. It'll be Eric Katz will be on with us. He'll be joined by Greg Fuchs and Madman Mancini and myself. So with that said, Smoke and Jeremy, why don't you let everybody know how they get a hold of you?
Well, you can find me at Kneecap Biting with Smoking Jeremy B, which I'll be doing my post-game show at 9:30 tonight. You can also find me at Motor City Kneecap Biters on Facebook, and also in a list of authors under SouthFloridaTribune.com, under Motor City Tribune. I'm listed a little ways down there below George Eichhorn.
Well, you know what? You do a good job, so that's all that matters to me. And I enjoy reading your content. You do a good job, and
thank you.
Keep up the good work. That's all I say. All right, Dom, go ahead.
Mondays here, obviously, with you 3 lovely gentlemen. Wednesdays with Jeremy, Kneecap Biting with Smoking Jeremy B. That's our NFL Roundtable. Thursdays, I can't even remember. If you guys don't know, you know. Gauntlet is on Fridays. Saturdays, I don't think I do anything. Sundays is Basket Bros. Thursday during the NBA season is the Sip Off. Also, Alex Fleming's NFL Carousel. I'm everywhere. I do this way too much to not get paid, but you know what? I enjoy it. And guess what? We've missed a total of 3 points in 12 minutes and 59 seconds of play. Can we just get one good primetime game?
We had one. We had one last Thursday.
One. What week is it?
Week
7. So Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, one good game out of, can't even do that math, 18 games, one good one. Go ahead, George.
I can tell you what, I enjoy pairing up with you on Basket Bros. I wasn't able to get there yesterday because I had some post-media.
Me neither.
But nevertheless, anytime I get an opportunity to work with you, Dom, it's always a delight. All right, George, you have a lot to talk about, a book, among other things, so do it before we wrap her up.
Oh, yeah, the book is still out there for anybody who would like a copy. Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. And the link is at the end of my column in the Motor City Tribune, as well as you can get a hold of me at SNG-Sports99 or else gicorn@yahoo.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn as well with my name. And I'm on this show every Monday night and look forward to the Sports Exchange once in a while when Scott needs me. And look forward to being with you gentlemen every Monday night. It's a lot of fun.
Do a good job. I'm glad to be in the book with Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Carter.
Yes, you are. I'm glad to have you.
Yeah, you did a good job. It's one of those books which is an easy read where the picture's worth more than 1,000 words. So if you can go out there and get it, you can find the link on the South Florida Tribune. And George has a lot of good stuff. Talk about one of the better book reads out there / look at. Pictures are easy to get by. And nowadays, I don't read as much as I probably should because I'm so busy surfing on the internet as well as trying to make contacts as well. But with that said, have a really great show tonight. For a lot of you folks that have been watching, if you're on Twitter, feel free to follow me at Tribune South. So South Florida Tribune on Twitter at Tribune South. So I'll go over our information one last time. Tonight, subscribe to the South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel or visit www.southfloridatribune.com. Any advertise, call 954-304-4941. The audio portion of the show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. If you have difficulties trying to find it through the website, just go to youtube.com. Search for South Florida Tribune, hit the subscribe button. You get all the videos out there that we do on-site location. In addition to the streams, we have a lot of good stuff in the pipeline. I know I've been extraordinarily busy with my work on the road. Also, if you want to email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And a special shout out to Candy Abilene, who does a great job not only putting the shows up on the website, but she does a good job getting the content. Now she's thrust into the broadcast role where if I can't make it, she does an excellent job substituting for me when I need her. And you talk about
photography too, right?
Oh, her photos are unbelievable. She had her first rodeo with NASCAR. She had done IMSA for a while, and she did a great time. I'll end it on one note here, Dom. When I did this drive, I told her it was one of the best days of my life doing the NASCAR experience, thanks to Russell Branham, who asked me, actually tell you how it all came about again, is I was supposed to do a ride along, but then Russell comes, I want you to drive. So, are you serious? Oh, yeah, no, I want you to drive. You got to take an hour class, then you have to go out and in the field, and then we'll show you what to do there. No problem. So then Katie had an opportunity to shoot the race yesterday, and even I told her one of the best days of my life. The best day of my life is getting married. The next best thing is taking the drive around Homestead. So she was definitely anxious to go ahead and shoot this track because obviously, if this is one of the best days of his life, I got to see what I'm shooting here so I can put the pieces of the puzzle together. So, with that said, great show tonight, George, Dom, Smoking Jeremy. Excellent job. But then again, I don't really think I expect anything less on you guys anyways, because you guys are great. So with that said, on behalf of George Eichhorn, Dom DeRubis, and Smoking Jeremy B., my name is Scott Morganroth, appropriately named for this show, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Fire Up Michigan, and we will catch you next week. Take care, everybody. God bless, and have a great week. Good night now.
Spay and neuter your pets.